part 3, we're going to talk about the themes, the archetype and themes of Gemini. We're going to talk about some prompts that you can use as you work through letting go of whatever it is you need to let go of with this particular full moon lunar eclipse. And it's a wonderful opportunity we're going to talk about here in just a minute. So in part 3, Gemini archetypes, Gemini themes. Before we dive into this, what I want to kind of talk about, I want to preface the conversation by pointing out that it is a full moon. It is an eclipse, so that's significant, right? That's big endings, potentially, or the endings of, the culminations of a long-term effort, a 6-month effort, or a 12-month effort, or even an 18-month effort coming to fruition. It's happening just after the turn of the year, right? Right as we have all planets moving into direct motion in the solar system. So what I would advise you to do is to really take a good long look back at last year, at any major projects or issues or circumstances, anything significant that is still left undone, that just needs to be wrapped up, needs to be finished, needs to be left behind in 2019. Take good stock of what those things might be for you and use this coming week, the next 7 to 10 days, to get those things finished up and put to bed. That's the best way that you could use this window of time around this full moon, is just by wrapping up everything that needs to be wrapped up now, so that you can move on, you can put it all to rest, you can move into fresh new territory, you can move in with new energy, and you can move into 2020 focusing only on those things that are going to be serving you in 2020. Okay? So let's talk, now that we've got that out, let's talk about Gemini. Let's talk about Gemini archetype. Let's talk about the themes of Gemini. So Gemini is the twins, right? This is male and female duality, polarity type of energy. It's the sign of the twins. It's the stars Castor and Pollux, right? We associate with Gemini. We associate with Cain and Abel too, oddly enough. And sometimes you'll find Gemini is used to symbolize, I'm saying this backwards, Adam and Eve. What I actually mean to say is sometimes you'll find that Adam and Eve are one representation of Gemini. So that male-female duality, right? We often give it twins and give it same gender twins, but that's not necessarily what is being signified with Gemini. Okay, so it's ruled by Mercury, the messenger planet, right? The planet of communication. Mercury being the storyteller, the messenger of the gods, right? The wanderer, the trickster. Mercury is also the student and the teacher. Okay. Mercury is the writer and the communicator, the journalist, right? The messenger, the journalist. The spreader of news, the town crier, that's Mercury, right? The witness, Mercury is the witness. Mercury rules contracts, right? Contracts require witnesses. So what are some themes of Gemini then? Especially of Mercury Gemini, not Mercury Virgo, Mercury Gemini. Especially when we want to explore the less savory aspects. So these can come out as gossipy or being a busybody, talking too much, being a chatterbox, right? Can come out as being superficial, not going deep enough and just scratching the surface of things, right? Being kind of shallow. Intellectual. This kind of intellectual concept is a hallmark of Gemini Mercury. Not being physically engaged with the practicalities in the real world, but being in the head and just being absorbed with knowledge and facts and not like actually putting them to use practically, right? Gemini, Mercury is Gemini. This can also be being very detailed oriented, almost myopic, which can hinder us at times. And I would say where we have Mercury in debilitation, that's definitely a time when you want to be aware of the risks of being too detail oriented, too myopic, or overlooking the details, not paying close enough attention, or not being discerning enough with the details. Okay, it could really go either way. However, the general gist of it is that because Mercury is debilitated, it's likely to be bad news, whichever way it goes. So just be really aware of that as we move through these couple of weeks. And as we get ready for our releasing practice, shoot, I had my bowl out for burning my paper and I left it downstairs on the kitchen counter. I grabbed the lighter, but not the paper. Can you believe that? Or not the bowl. So I might have to run downstairs and get my bowl, or I might have to just burn up my paper after the broadcast. I like to do it on the broadcast because I like to just have it done. Let's just be done with it. But I want you to get your paper out, get your pen, and considering how the astrology is playing in your chart, what themes are active for you, and you kind of know because they really kind of resonate, right? You can kind of pick out what some of these themes are, or you can take this another direction. And I do often encourage this at eclipse time because eclipses are so powerful. You can also just choose to use this in the direction that you feel led. So as I'm going through the prompts, if you get inspired to take this a particular way, pursue it, take that way, okay? Because it's an eclipse, so follow your own inner guidance. And then lastly, I would also call out that because it's an eclipse, because this is powerful energy for letting go of things that we've outgrown, that aren't serving us any longer, that could be holding us back, because it's such a powerful window of opportunity for doing that, do the practice a second time for your sun sign and do it for your solar house. Okay, so don't just do it for your rising sign, do it for your rising sign and your sun sign and get like twice as much bang for your buck, as we say. Okay, but grab your pen and paper, and I'm looking around because I don't even see that I have any paper to use. Do I have scratch paper? Not handy. I'm woefully unprepared for this releasing. Go figure. Oh, here we go. This will work. So grab your pen and paper and consider, are you telling a story about your life or about your experience, especially about your Gemini house or your Sagittarius house? Are you telling a story that's just not serving you any longer? Can you let go of your attachment to that story long enough to write a new one that captures your belief in what's possible? Consider, are you being superficial? Are you being shallow somewhere, somehow? Is there a part of your life where you are resistant to the idea of going deeper? Is it a lack of interest? Is it a lack of excitement? Is it a fear of something? What might you need to let go of in order to go deeper? And I ask you to consider this because I guarantee you that playing in the shallow waters is only holding back your growth and progress. Balaji says, actually, I'm beginning to believe that my luck will change for the better. And actually, Balaji, I'm believing that too. Partly because of how all of these transits are hitting my chart. Now, I don't pretend to be able to say, oh, this is what's going to happen to me. but I'm optimistic. So I hope that your optimism is serving you as well as my optimism is serving me. But I'm really kind of looking forward to watching this year play out. Well, maybe I speak too soon. I'm looking forward to watching this year play out with the exception of Saturn stationing retrograde conjunct my sun. I'm not looking forward to experiencing that. I don't want to experience a retrograde station of Saturn in Capricorn on my sun. That just doesn't sound fun. But it's coming, and it's actually coming sooner than I want to admit. But I'll let you know how to survive that one when it transpires. How about that? So considering where you're being superficial, right? Where do you need to go deeper? Or here's another way you can approach that one. Are you being negatively superficial? Engaging in gossip or idle chit-chat? Facebook, right? Anyone? Idle chit-chat, time wasters? Now is a really good time to release your attachment to that behavior and to kind of let it go. Yes, it is. It's right around the corner. Are you focusing too much on the details and losing sight of the bigger picture? Is too much focus on or too much attention to detail slowing down your progress, right? Sometimes that can be a risk, that we just get bogged down in the details and it keeps us from making the kind of progress that we could be making otherwise because we've gotten maybe lost in the weeds even. Consider, do you need to take a step back and maybe get some perspective on a situation? Or do you need to take a step back and get some perspective on a person? 21st of January is my birthday, actually. Very close. Let's see. What else can we work with in a prompt for tonight's releasing practice? So I also wrote that now can be a good time to metaphorically let go of someone or something which is outside of our control, outside of our responsibility, outside of our concern, like a situation or some other kind of drama, and to release our attachment to the outcome, to the condition, to the circumstance surrounding that person or that situation. So also consider whether or not that would apply to you. Do you need to metaphorically let go of something or someone that's beyond your ability to control and let go of any attachment to an outcome? It's always a big one. It's almost like a practice of surrender, right? So I'm going to recap the prompts. What you'll do is you will use them or use whatever you're inspired to do to write out what it is you would like to release or let go of at this particular full moon on your paper. And then when you're done, we'll circle back around and we will do our releasing practice. Okay, so let me just recap these real quick. Are you telling a story about your life or your experience that isn't serving you any longer? And can you let go of your attachment to the story long enough to write a new one that captures your belief in what's possible? Are you being superficial? That is a tough one, isn't it? Are you being superficial? Where are you being superficial? What's keeping you from going deeper? Is it a lack of interest, excitement? Is it a fear of something? What might you need to let go of in order to go deeper? And when I wrote that, what might you need to let go of in order to go deeper? I had this visual image of being in a swimming pool, right? And so a lot of swimming pools, the bottom is angled, so it's only like 3 or 4 feet deep on one end, and maybe it's like 6 or 7 feet deep on the other, right? And you can get from one end of the pool, you can get from the shallow end of the pool to the deep end of the pool without ever letting go of the side of the pool, right? But it doesn't do you any good to be in the deep end if you don't let go of the thing that's holding you above the surface of the water, right? Like you can't experience those depths. They're untapped unless you're willing to let go, right? So what might you need to let go of in order to go deeper? Or are you being negatively superficial? And so for this, we're talking like idle chit chat or gossip, detrimental superficial behavior. It can be a good time to release that behavior right now. Also consider whether you're focusing too much on the details and losing sight of the bigger picture in a particular area of life, or if too much focus on or attention to detail is slowing down your progress. You might need to take a step back and get some perspective on a situation or a person, or you might choose to use this full moon to just kind of metaphorically let go of things that are beyond your ability to control, whether that's a person or a situation, a responsibility, a concern, something. If it's bigger than you and you don't have the ability to control the outcome, just energetically, mentally, metaphorically, let it go with this full moon and just release it. Take your thoughts off it. Let it happen the way that it happens and trust that it'll play out in a way that's for the highest good of everyone involved. And you can even offer a prayer to that effect. It's a very powerful prayer. And I encourage you to do that. Okay? So consider releasing your attachment to the outcome, to the condition, to the circumstance surrounding that person or that situation, whatever it is in your life. Okay? So we're going to break, give everyone a few minutes to write down what it is they want to let go of. I'm going to go figure out what I need to let go of. Behavior, an identity, part of my identity, a role. I got to think about this. Okay. I think I did it. If anyone still needs time, let me know. That was quick, short but sweet, but powerful. I think it was powerful. Anyway, for me, and significant. Very significant. Especially with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction mess, for me, happening quite near my descendant. It's definitely been affecting partnerships and relationships in the past year. Quite significantly. And so that's kind of what I led with, because this is a first house full moon for me. So, like I was saying, that has to do with identity, or the role that we play in the world. And I've had a significant change to my role within a major relationship in the past year. And this kind of gave me a moment to really think about, well, what does that mean for me? What does that mean going forward, right? So here's what I wrote. And if you are willing to share in the comments what it is you're letting go of with tonight's full moon lunar eclipse, I welcome that. Please, please do. It can be very, very fun, very significant, very meaningful for those of us who are doing this. So here's what I wrote. That I release any attachments to the identity of partner. And when I say the identity of partner, I mean me identifying as a partner. The identity of spouse. I release any attachments to the identity of wife, or to any identity which defines me as half of or part of something which involves other, or something which requires other in order to be considered whole or complete. And I release those identities and any attachments to them with a great deal of love and gratitude for the experiences and the lessons that those identities brought into my life and that they brought to me. I hope I'm a better person for having had them. And I hope that I've learned and grown from having those experiences. And I hope that in the coming, let's say 6 to 12 months, I can really kind of integrate what it means to have had those experiences and yet to step out of identifying with those roles and step out of any attachments to identifying with those roles. And just move into a space of experiencing self. It'll be interesting. The new moon in Gemini will be interesting. Coming up in 6 months. Anyway, so we'll see. And I don't really have my best bowl for releasing this. So once you figure out what you're letting go of, what I encourage you to do is to just state it out loud what it is that you're letting go of. State it out loud that you're intending to release it completely and thoroughly, and that you are thankful and grateful for all the lessons that it brought into your life, whatever it is that you're releasing. And I'm releasing, we're burning this over my incense dish and not my big, big bowl. I'm releasing my attachment to this identity, this notion of being half of a partnership, half of a thing, half of a Gemini. I'm Gemini ascendant. I can't be half of a Gemini. I can only be a whole Gemini. Right? Isn't that how it goes? So there. Oh my goodness. And that really just kind of went. It burned up quick and thoroughly. I think I was just ready to be done with that. I think I was just ready to be done with that. That was a big one. It's going to feel good. It already feels good. That's definitely something I'm ready to leave behind in 2019. Absolutely. And move into 2020. Yes! So write it down. You don't have to burn it, Balaji. I burn mine, and if you do burn it, I encourage you to do it in a fire-safe place. So I keep fire extinguishers handy. You can burn it in a fire pit or a fireplace. I have on occasion used my empty kitchen sink, because then you have a water source right there. Normally when I do my broadcast, I have a big ceramic bowl. Just be safe if you burn it. If you burn it, make sure it burns completely. So if there's a little piece left over that isn't all the way burnt, relight it. Relight it till it's all the way burnt. But you don't have to burn it. You could also say the same statement aloud. I release bleh, whatever it is. And I release it with gratitude and love for the lessons that it brought to me. And then tear it up. You can tear it up into tiny little bits and pieces, and the action of tearing it up has the same effect. So you can do either way. Either way that you do, I encourage you, like you can dump the ashes in your garden or a flower bed. It's really, really good for your garden or your flower bed. You could do the same thing with the paper that you tear up, or you could just throw it away. You could compost it. You could do whatever you want. But it's that energetic act of releasing it back into the ether, right? Releasing it back in to become part of a new potential for something else or someone else. Just letting it go, moving out of your life, and that opens up space for something new to come and fill in wherever you just did your releasing. Now, one other thing that I will toss out there. We talked a little bit about how you can and should, especially at eclipse time, do these practices a second time for your sun sign. I would encourage you to do that. Crap, where was I going with that? It had to do with being eclipses and powerful. I don't remember. If it comes back, it comes back. But do your releasing and let go of it. Oh, here it is. So when we have a full moon in a sign, doesn't really matter if it's an eclipse or not. This is applicable to any kind of full moon. What happens is it brings activity and events to culmination, to fruition. And then after that's come to transpire, then we enter kind of this rest season, almost like what winter is for those of us who live in areas where there's distinct seasons. It's a period of rest for nature, right? Everything that grows, the plants and the trees and the bugs and the animals, they're all subdued, they're all dormant, they're all resting. It's a rest period. And so it's the same thing after we have a full moon in a house or a sign. It moves us into a state where we can experience a period of rest in that house or in that sign and activities related to it, like a dormancy cycle. So don't get too fired up and gung-ho about, well, what's the next thing for my Gemini house, or my, the Gemini part of my life. What's the next thing? Don't give that some space and let it kind of sort itself out and show up on its own terms and on its own schedule, because you want this period of rest in your Gemini house. And whatever the next new thing is for you in that house is likely to make itself known when we come into proximity of the next new moon in Gemini, which will happen later this year in about 6 months, June, July. That time frame when we have the sun transiting Gemini. So feel free to give yourself a break, right? Just take a breather and let activity die down, and don't push things, don't rush things, just let it be what it is. And let the energy in your Gemini house go for a rest after you wrap up whatever it is you need to wrap up with this full moon. And I'm seeing that I'm running low on battery. I don't have my phone plugged in. I usually start off my broadcast days with a full battery, and I have been using my phone today, so I haven't been cognizant of that. So what I'm going to do is kind of scroll to the end of my notes here and see if I had any big announcements or anything like that that I needed to go over before my battery dies, which hopefully it won't, but just in case it does, I want to make sure that I cover it. But yes, you're just going to stay, when you're finished, you're going to take your paper to a fire safe place and burn it, or like I said, tear it up. And as you do, you state aloud your intention to release these thoughts, behaviors, beliefs. I release this behavior, this habit, this limiting belief, etc., which is no longer serving me. I release it with my gratitude for the lessons which it brought me. I release it with love. Okay? And then just let it go. It's all done, and it feels so good and very cathartic. I love it. So announcements. So I did write most of a January overview, no short reports. I may or may not finish up the overview piece and get it published. It's mostly written. I just had a few other things I wanted to touch on before I published it. I probably won't get the short reports done in time. I just have so much on my plate in a few short weeks that I need to get wrapped up, and a lot of it is stuff I'm carrying over from 2019. So if you'll bear with me, I do hope to get the horoscopes situated and back on track going into this year, and maybe even to the point where I can bring back the full horoscopes by sign, because I know y'all love those, and I haven't written them for an entire year. And I know that that can be particularly valuable for some of you when I do that, and I would like to bring it back. So hopefully before the year is out, we'll see a rebirth of that. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I'm going to drop a link here. Please be sure to subscribe. So I don't always get the reminder emails and the replay emails sent out in a timely fashion or at all. However, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and you click the notification bell icon, you'll get notified whenever I upload a video to YouTube, and the videos always get uploaded to YouTube. So if you never want to miss a broadcast, that's the best thing to do, especially for the lunar live streams, the new and full moon guided practices, but also for the Sidereal Insights Astro Update. And I just finished, putting together this year's plan for publishing. And on the schedule, I've left room for a few extra broadcasts to talk about things that are going to be specific to 2020, a couple of which are our next 2 phases of eclipse activity. Our next eclipse season, after we make it through this one in January, our next eclipse season comes in June and July. And then we have another one in December... November? I just looked this morning when I was planning the dates, and do you think I can remember? Of course not. Anyway, so we'll be doing, I think the broadcast I planned for November. Maybe that's when I planned the broadcast. So I'm going to be doing a few extra supplemental broadcasts around that activity. So more basically along the same lines of the prior broadcasts I've done about eclipses, critical dates, and degrees that you're going to want to know. I've got those scheduled so that we'll be doing those broadcasts 2 months ahead of when the eclipse is actually going to be happening, as we're just entering the opening phase of eclipse season. So you'll have that information to refer to through the entire eclipse time frame going through 2020. And then I'm also going to do a broadcast later on this year about Venus retrograde, because we do have a Venus retrograde coming up later this year. And so I'll be doing a special broadcast around that. So keep an eye out for me to post events. And then hopefully coming up soon, I will have all of the Sidereal Insights Astro updates and the new and full moon lunar live streams scheduled for the coming year, so that you can just go to the event and click on that you're going. And then what will happen is you'll get reminders from Facebook too about when those events are going to take place. Balaji says, got to run. Thank you, Balaji. I'm glad that you joined us. Thanks for the guidance. I will have a great weekend, and you have a lovely weekend and a lovely 2020. Happy New Year. Bye-bye. We'll see you. Let me make sure. Do I have anything else that I want to cover for you? Really no, other than just kind of stay tuned, because I'm switching things up for the new year. I have some ideas for things I want to revamp on the website, for new ways to bring you astrological content and writings. And so there's more to come on that. Stay tuned for me to announce those changes as we move into implementing them. And don't forget, please, if you haven't yet, go check out the 2020 Ultimate Astrological Planners and get yours so that you too have access to color-coded best days for love, luck, and business, and Mercury retrograde for the entire year. Grab your planner with some new fun features for this year, and we'll be rolling out 2021 pretty soon with some new exciting fun features for 2021. And I want to thank Michiel Blunder of Parashas Light Vedic Astrology Software for helping us make these changes possible, all thanks to his amazing skills and wonderful gifts as a programmer. Thank you so much, Balaji, for joining us on the broadcast, and we'll see you all again next time. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye.